I'm Andrew Reed. I'm a partner at Sequoia, and I help lead Sequoia's late-stage investing business, where we work with a bunch of different companies. And the two gentlemen on stage with me are two of the best product people in the world, in my opinion, and two people I've been fortunate to work with for a long time. So by way of introduction, Zach Lloyd, founder and CEO of Warp. Prior to starting Warp, Zach was responsible as tech lead of Google Sheets and Google Docs and a bunch of other products that billions of people, or at least a billion people, use, and pioneered a lot of the work on that area in the browser. And Yuki Yamashita, Yuki's chief product officer of Figma, and Yuki's been chief product officer since 2019, and therefore is responsible for a lot of the product that I suspect everyone in this audience uses every day. And for the first question, as I introduced you all, I'd like for you to introduce your companies. And the framing is, imagine somebody went on a silent meditation retreat in 2021 and left thinking of Warp as that really cool terminal and Figma as that really cool design tool, and reemerged today to enter TechCrunch Disrupt. How would you describe Warp today?
So Warp today still looks like a terminal. You can use it as a terminal, but obviously the world has changed a bit in the last few years. So the other thing you can do in Warp is, instead of typing terminal commands, you can just interact with it in English. And if you do that, it launches an agent. And so the way I would describe it today is a sort of general purpose interface for developers to ask their computer to do things for them. So whether that's writing code or setting up projects or figuring out why your servers crash, we sort of kept the roots of the app, but it was kind of a dream at the beginning. Could you talk to this thing in English? And now it's crazy. You can. It's cool.
I'm not sure everyone realizes quite the scale of Warp. Anything you can share about how many developers are using Warp like this?
So we have about 700,000 active developers in Warp. Recently, we've been growing our revenue really fast too, and it's all because of just the sort of like crazy growth and productivity you get as a developer by being able to tell your computer to do things for you.
Great. Yuki, I'm out of my silent meditation retreat. What's Figma?
Well, back in 2021, we maybe were a single product company, or maybe had two products, FigJam and Figma Design, and since then we have 8 products, and what we've become is a company where you can take an idea all the way to finished product in your user's hands. So I think that's one big thing about our product, which is the ability for teams to come together, design, build, and ship products. And the other thing is, I think we still are a design tool in some ways, but we've expanded what design means. I think when people think of design, it's like drawing, sketching, those kinds of visual manipulation is what we call it. But we also believe that design can be accomplished via coding. It can be accomplished via prompting. And so these are different mediums, if you will, that are available to help you build your products.
Great. And let's stick with you, Yuki. So
yeah.
I think anybody who's interested in technology on the internet probably has been reading like the Figma technical blogs for a long time, and all the work you guys did to kind of bring collaboration into the browser. And there's enormous depth in Figma.
Yeah.
And you take that depth and then apply AI and all the advances in AI. Talk a little bit about what it's like bringing AI into an ecosystem like Figma, all the benefits, maybe any drawbacks, and what that allows you to do for you.
Yeah. I mean, it can be hard, right? Like, we've been building a product for many, many years now. In fact, we first launched in 2015, right? And so we've been out there for 10 years and accumulated a lot of things. And so sometimes it's like you can think of it as, well, it's hard to just add this new thing on top of it and build it in this AI native way. But one of the things I think which is interesting is we're really built with multiplayer from the ground up, meaning that we're thinking about collaboration from the very beginning. So it's been interesting for us to bring AI into that equation. And how do we take AI, which is often this very single-player experience in many tools, into experience that makes it feel like AI is just yet another teammate. So that's kind of our aspiration as we've been building a lot of our kind of new capabilities.
Same question for you, Zach.
Yeah, so we went through a bunch of iterations figuring out the right way to put AI into Warp. We did a thing initially I think a lot of companies did. We put like a chat panel in. And then we realized actually that integration isn't necessary in the terminal, which is itself a sort of way of chatting with your computer. And so the more like native we've been able to make the AI feel. Like we got rid of that chat panel, and you can just like I said earlier, instead of just entering terminal commands, you can just tell an agent to do something. The more natural the interaction has been, and so yeah, I think the key thing for us has been like, what's the most native way to get the AI into the workflow in our app? That's been a big unlock.
Great. Back to Yuki. I think one trippy thing that I think about is like your team goes into work and fires up Figma to load the next version of Figma, then uses Figma to build Figma in Figma. Like, maybe just talk about what it's like, your internal adoption of Figma products and how your team has changed as you've pushed the limits of creativity in Figma.
Totally. I mean,
And what's that like?
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Inception in a way, where we're like, wait, what are we looking at? Can you get rid of the other Chrome so we can see just, the design of Figma without seeing the rest of Figma? It's really confusing. But I mean, we live and breathe Figma every single day. And when I first arrived, actually, back in 2019, we had this issue where my product managers were not using Figma that much, right? They're reviewing designs, doing all the PM things, but they weren't in it every single day. And I think it's really important to be in your product every single day to really kind of, build intuition, have a sense of quality. And so, we were a very doc-driven culture, and I forced them to be a deck-driven culture just so that they could be building decks in Figma. And now, over time, people are using it organically because we've built a lot of tools for product managers and non-designers like FigJam, Figma Slides, Make now. So it's made it a lot easier for people to have a bit more of an intuitive sense or feel connected to what they're building. Yeah.
Are people adopting the AI parts of Figma internally to build Figma?
Yeah, we're trying to kind of, we have a lot of Figma Make prototypes of Figma Make.
Okay.
And I think in today's world with AI, you actually need to prototype with AI, like an actual LLM, to know what's possible, right? And so prototypes are more important than ever before. And for that, we use Figma Make, and yeah, it's fun.
Was there any like change resistance or like stuff you had to do to get people to use it? I asked because at Warp it was at least initially challenging to get at least some of the more senior and more experienced people on the team to change their workflow to be more AI first.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two kind of areas, right? One is changing your workflow, and for that, I'm not sure what the Warp equivalent would be, but for Figma design, there are a lot of designers who want to code or who are dangerous enough to code some things but can't do everything. And for them, having this power of coding all of a sudden is really amazing, right? And whether that's through Figma Make, whether that's through Warp, right? And so just kind of really pushing on that piece and getting people excited about that new capability. And then the other thing that was probably kind of a bit of a tension is, designers are very used to building the prototypes themselves and doing the designs themselves. And all of a sudden, you have a lot of other people kind of contributing to that process. And while Figma has always been welcoming of that and blurring those boundaries, it's still a little bit kind of like strange when a PM shows up with a prototype of exactly what they were thinking of. And I think that's something that culturally we just have to embrace a little bit more and say, okay, well, what can designers do in that world where everyone's creating? What are the rails that they can create, the creative infrastructure of design systems that they can invest in so that everyone can create high quality stuff?
What's it like building Warp with Warp?
It's it's cool. It's a huge productivity boost for the most part. But like I was saying to Yuki, so it was actually, at least at the beginning, a little bit challenging to get the more senior developers on the team to adopt the new workflow. So like, obviously there's a popularity of vibe coding tools, and like I think a big part of the draw is like, if you're not a developer, you can build code, right? You can write code, you can build apps. For the senior developers on the team, it's like they know how to do it, so it's not like a 0 to 1. It's more of like, how do I do it faster? And so we actually had to put in place a sort of mandate approach where every task within Warp should start with a prompt. Doesn't necessarily need to like finish with a prompt. And doing that, like obviously it's great for dog food feedback, that type of thing. But we've gotten to a point now where it's interesting. The more senior developers who were more reticent at first are now, I think, the most eager adopters and also the most skilled at actually guiding the agents to do coding tasks and sort of setting the new standard across the team for how you should work with the tool. So it's been cool. It's even in just like we're talking like three to 6 months here. It's really changed internally.
And I remember, well, Zach's written a lot on the internet about product-oriented engineers, and I remember when I did my references on you prior to investing in Warp, it was like, he's the most product-oriented, super technical guy out there. And then I remember Yuki, who joined Figma to lead product when you were in your late 20s, mid-20s. Like, the references on Yuki were the best designing product leader or the most product-oriented mega design superstar. So you kind of both have always blurred this EPD, job title thing due to like unique skill sets. How do you see the engineer, PM, designer, trifecta, research, whatever you want to describe it, the EPD job titles? How do you see those lines blurring or that team changing in the years to come?
I mean, so like you said, so my goal when building our team has always been to hire what I call product-first engineers. And those are engineers who, as they're working, are always keeping in mind, like, what's the user problem that I'm solving here? And the sort of counterpart would be like what I call like a code-first engineer, which some people probably don't like, but it's someone who is building for the beauty of the code. And my thought has been like, users don't use code, they use the product. And the more that you understand what problem you're solving and why you're building something, the greater the likelihood that you're going to actually build something useful and that you can, fill in the gaps when a design isn't fully specified. And so I think if anything, that's just become more and more important. And to me, actually, the best type of builder right now with this new set of tools is a product-oriented engineer. So someone who has the engineering skills, because it's not like you can like not do engineering just because you're using agents, at least on like a real code base. You still need that skill set, but you also need the why am I building this? What problem is it solving? How should it work from a user perspective mindset? So that's like really what we've leaned into.
Yeah. Well, I really think that what's happening is everyone's kind of being pushed up the stack to some extent, right? And this has been happening for a while. Like when designers, for example, very few designers are in the pixels pushing kind of like all these details every single day. Like they're using design systems and now they're using AI. So naturally using more abstractions. And as part of that, as you're kind of talking at, dealing with these problems at higher altitudes, you push up against areas that maybe someone in product has spent a lot of time on, like user journeys, like the problem in the first place. So I actually think that kind of product orientation, to your point, is going to be one of the most important skill sets because that's where everyone's going to spend a lot of time. So yeah, that's definitely kind of a movement that we're seeing. But on the other hand, I also think that these different roles always stand for something. So for example, for designers, I like to encourage them to forget about some constraints for a bit, like the technical constraints, the business constraints, and just really push on the user experience. And through that advocacy, they might inspire other functions to think differently and relax some of those constraints or have a breakthrough. And I think each of these different functions have that role to play. And so no matter what their job titles are called, while we're all moving up the stack, there are these different kind of considerations that you kind of have to come at a problem with, which is always a healthy way to work.
Great. I want to do some questions from the audience, so if you get to the mics quickly. I'm going to one more. I'm going on a silent meditation retreat starting this afternoon. Great panel, by the way.
Okay.
And I come back in 3 years. What's going to surprise me the most?
Oh, that's interesting. So I think there's a lot of talk of like, are there going to be engineers? And I think that there are going to still be engineers. I think that, so I don't know if that would surprise you. I don't know if you're in the camp of there's not going to be any, but I think that what the job is going to look like of building is going to be, to Yuki's point, I think it's just going to be at a different level of abstraction. And the really core thing you're going to need to be able to do is like, say from the user perspective how you want something to work. But then also as an engineer, if you're still doing that, you're going to need a bunch of systems knowledge. You're just going to need to be really, really big picture. And you're going to have, I think, sort of building superpowers, which is to me the most exciting thing. Like the sort of average output per person should go way up. The amount of stuff that's actually being done without any person involved, at least as a first draft, is going to be way up. So I think that you're going to have these sort of like agent systems where there's a server crash and an agent takes a first pass at it, or there's a user issue and an agent takes a first pass at it. And you know, that's like the world of like, I hope more cool, useful software gets built more quickly. That's what I'm hoping for.
Good answer. What do you
Thanks.
think, Yuki?
I was just thinking about 3-year silent meditation retreats. Let me think. Well, I actually think, you know, Dylan, our CEO, often likes to talk about the fact that right now we're in the MS-DOS era of AI interfaces, right? And this idea that, okay, like, you know, AI user interfaces look a certain way today, but, you know, when certain characteristics change, like the latency, right, the quality, what does that look like to build a truly native interface and reimagine it, right? And so as Zach said, you know, just slapping on a chat interface, it makes sense right now, right? Because of those characteristics, because it's just easy to do. But you know, what does it look like for an interface to be truly reimagined with the capabilities of AI? And I think there are probably going to be interfaces that we can't even imagine today that you'll see coming out of your silent retreat.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know how this works, but I'll say, go for it.
So as tech leads in the grasping with the gravity of AI and how to use the new golden tools, what do you see as the new career? You mentioned some labels, but as we adopt these new tools, what are some of the standouts as far as complements? I know there's a lot of training on the pro versions of different LLMs, but do you see something that stands out in your mind, or multiple new career fields that might be quietly emerging?
Career. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if this is going to answer directly, but like if I were tech lead right now trying to be relevant in 3 years, and where should I invest my time, it would, first of all, I would still focus on learning. I would dive all into how do I learn these tools? How do I get as good at using them as I can? I think that the skills are like, it's going to sound sort of stupid, but like prompting, context, just getting a feel for what it is to work with an LLM is really important. And then I wouldn't like forego, this is more for, you know, earlier career people, I wouldn't forego like the basics of becoming a great engineer and a great problem solver, because I think that that's just equally relevant, if not more important as these tools advance. Like, the thing you don't want to be is the person who doesn't understand the tools. So I would invest heavily in my education.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, you know, we talk, at least internally, about a lot of like learned helplessness, where, you know, in a world where you didn't know how to do like write SQL or write code, you kind of are so used to, especially as a product manager, just like leaning on your data scientist, leaning on your engineer. And I think now more than ever, you know, if you're curious, you can figure out a way to do it.
Yes.
And so I think that mindset is so important today. Yeah.
Hi, thank you. I'm founder and CEO of like AI native applications. So my question is like, as consumer, not builders, investors, like creators, as consumers, what kind of AI native experience is magical to you, or what do you expect in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think for one is when you don't even really kind of, you know, AI is not overtly there,
Yeah.
right? One in which, you know, I think the core of what a great user experience remains the same, right? Where you kind of get out of the way and it just feels so well considered. And that's kind of what I would love to return to. You know, I think we live in a world where we have to be like, here's a sparkle, this is an AI feature, here's the model, and that's a little bit of like where we are today. But I'm hoping we can, you know, move to a world where, you know, experience is just wonderful, and just so happens that AI is, you know, behind the scenes doing the work.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think that we're not going to be talking about AI experiences on the consumer side. We're going to just be talking about something that is useful and helps you solve your problem, and like AI is part of it, just like the cloud is part of it, or your mobile phone is part of it, or whatever. It's just like we're in this, no one knows exactly what to do with this technology right now, so it's very overt, but I think it will go into the background.
I like Mid-Journey. The pictures are very beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, one more question.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm Sonia, I'm a designer, and you mentioned that like PMs are doing design work, designers are coding, devs are more and more enabled by AI and assisted. So I was just curious in the next 5 years, maybe how you see the future of product teams. Are people shifting their roles around and like that existing in the gray area more, or do you think that they'll eventually just go back to regular, like I'm a designer, I do design, I'm a PM, I focus on the product and get deeper in that role enabled by AI? Like where are things landing in the future?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to predict exactly what happens to job titles exactly, and different companies will do different things. But at the end of the day, all those tasks are important. Like, you defining the problem, figuring out that user journey, like pushing on the experience and coming in with a user-centric point of view, figuring out a way to build with quality and performance. And so I think like it might just be that these jobs will be redistributed depending on the skill set at hand, or with the help of AI. But I think what all of what we're doing to build products is still important. It might just be faster with AI, or it might be that designers are reaching for some tasks that they traditionally haven't, and vice versa. Yeah.
I think I basically agree with that. I could see it blending a bit. I mean, we're on like the builder's stage. I could see a general purpose builder role, sort of where you have some aspects of all those skills. I just made that up. I don't know.
I feel very confident.
it's a
I actually have a point of view on this, so I'll finish off.
Okay.
I think,
Take it home.
as always, like it's the startups that are going to lead the way. And when you have 4 co-founders, all of whom are building a product together, it always felt a little bit strange the first time you kind of subdivide teams specifically. And I think that moment of subdividing who's the PM, who's product, who's eng, who's design, or whatever, I think that moment's just going to get pushed out. And eventually there's going to be a 25-person company where it's sort of just the product team, and they're probably going to do really well because they're going to work very well together. And then there's going to be keynotes up here, people talking about transformation for big companies and how to do that. And as always, it's going to be the small companies and the fast ones like these guys that are going to lead the way.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.